Watch a freight train roll by and you see the locomotives, the endless line of cars, and up front, two people in the cab. What you do not see is that for those two people, that machine is not a workplace they clock out of at 5. It is closer to a home they cannot leave. A crew can go out on a run and not sleep in their own bed for 2, 3, sometimes 4 days at a stretch, living out of a single bag, sleeping in strange towns, riding the rails to a place hundreds of miles from home, and then waiting, sometimes for a full day, just to be allowed to ride back. People assume a train crew is like a bus driver. Finish the route, go home, see the family. It is nothing like that. And once you understand how it actually works, you will never look at that cab the same way again. Before we get into it, hit subscribe and drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. We want to know who's out there. Start with the thing that surprises everybody. A modern freight crew is not allowed to sleep on a moving train. Federal law forbids it. The engineer and the conductor have to be awake and alert every single minute they are on duty, and they are capped at 12 hours. Once they hit 12 hours, the train stops wherever it is, even in the middle of nowhere, and that is a thing the crews call dying on the law. So when we say they live in the locomotive, we do not mean they curl up behind the seats while the train rolls through the night. We mean something harder to explain, and honestly, a little sadder. Here is how the life actually works. Every road crew runs between 2 points: a home terminal where they live, and an away terminal somewhere down the line. The engineer takes the train from his home terminal, runs it as far as the law allows, and ties up at the away terminal. Now he is stuck. He is not home. His car is not there. His family is 100, 200, 300 miles behind him. He cannot go anywhere. All he can do is go to whatever lodging the railroad has arranged, sleep, and wait for the phone to ring, telling him a train is ready to take him back. Think about what that actually means over a career. You spend half your working life in a town that is not your town. You know the diner by the motel. You know which room has the air conditioner that works. You know the sound of the yard at 3 in the morning. You know all of it, and none of it is yours. You are always a guest, always passing through. Always a phone call away from being pulled back out into the dark. And that wait is the killer. It is not a schedule. Road freight crews mostly do not have set start times. They work off a list, a rotating board, and they take the trains as they come, day or night, holidays included. You might tie up at the away terminal at 3 in the morning and get called back at 2 in the afternoon. Or you might sit there for 24 hours waiting for a train. You cannot drink. You cannot go far. You have to stay ready, because when that call comes, you have got 90 minutes to be at the yard with your boots on. The clock of your life stops belonging to you the moment you sign on. One retired railroader put it perfectly. On freight, 3 days out of the week you could easily be up and working over 30 hours. No scheduled trains. The phone rings and you go. So a crew packs for it. And this is where you really see that the locomotive is a way of life and not a job. Every railroader carries what they call a grip. It is a heavy duffel bag built like a tank out of ballistic nylon, the same fabric they made flak jackets out of in World War II, because a normal bag off the shelf gets shredded in the rail yard inside a month. The good ones come with a lifetime warranty and cost real money, and railroaders argue about the best brands the way other men argue about trucks. And what goes in that grip tells you everything. The rule book, thick as a phone book. a lantern, a radio. Rain gear tough enough to climb over boxcars in, not the kind a hiker wears, the kind that survives crawling around on steel. A second pair of boots, because your first pair will be soaked through by the end of a wet shift. Work gloves, and for anybody whose terminal puts them up in hotels, a few days worth of clothes. Several days of clothes. In a bag. That is not what you pack for a shift. That is what you pack to be gone. This is not new. It goes back to the very beginning of railroading, and back then, the crew literally did live on the train. Before radios, before the modern age, the conductor spent his whole working life in the caboose at the back of the train. Railroaders called the caboose his home away from home, and they meant it literally. It was his office, where he kept his paperwork and his waybills and knew every car on the train by heart. And it was his sleeping quarters, with a bunk and a coal stove and a little table, and the rear brakeman bunked in there with him. Two men in a little wooden car on the end of a freight train, cooking their meals on that stove, sleeping in those bunks, riding across the country together through every kind of weather. They had a cupola, that little raised lookout on the roof, where a man could sit and watch the whole train ahead of him for trouble. The caboose was a rolling home for 100 years. Generations of railroaders were half raised in one. And then the railroads ran the numbers, decided a crude caboose cost too much, replaced it with a little electronic box on the last coupler, and got rid of it. 100 years of home, gone to save $1. Now the crews sleep in motels instead. And you would think that is better, a warm room, a real bed. But talk to anybody who does it, and they will tell you the truth. It is a strange, lonely, disconnected life. You are in a town you do not live in a motel by the tracks, killing hours until a phone call sends you back the way you came. You cannot really plan anything. You cannot promise your kid you will be at the game because you do not know if you will be in the state. Railroaders have a bitter joke about the modern attendance systems. Some of them have had to choose between going to a family member's funeral or saving the time off in case something even worse happens. That is the life this cab demands. And there is the limbo time. This is a phrase the railroaders themselves use, and the government even studied it in a formal report on crew fatigue. Limbo time is the hours you are neither properly working nor properly resting. You died on the law out on the road, but there is no relief crew, so you sit on a dead train on a siding, waiting for a van to come get you, sometimes for hours, and that time just disappears. It is not counted as rest. It is not home. It is nothing. It is time that belongs to the railroad and gives you nothing back. For the crews who work the variable boards, that limbo time piles onto an already brutal week, stretching the real length of the job far past what any schedule would ever show. Add it all up, and here is the picture. A crew signs on. They run a train as far as the law allows. They tie up in a strange town hundreds of miles from home. They sleep in a motel by the tracks. They wait, sometimes a full day, for a train to take them back. They ride it home. And then after a rest, the phone rings and they do the whole thing again. Their bed at home is a place they visit between runs. The road is where they actually live. That is why they say a railroader lives in the locomotive. Not because there is a bunk behind the seats, but because the machine and the strange rootless life that comes with it takes up so much of their days and nights that home starts to feel like the place they are visiting, and the cab starts to feel like the only fixed point in the whole world. The train rolls by, two people in the cab, and for them, that machine is not where they work, it is where they live.